Hey everybody, this is Julie Quinn, and I've just created this is going to be a real short video that has a couple of notes for you. Some of those notes are going to be on research questions and working thesis statements that have to do with your lit review / critical annotated bibliography. I'm noticing as I'm going through and as I've been giving feedback over the last couple days that you're doing a really good job so far with formatting and with of setting up the reference entry and then the content based on those critical points that I'm looking for, I'm really excited to see that. I wanted to give you some notes on working thesis, though, the difference between that and a research question. And so I've made up, you can see on the screen here, a little sort of handy go-to explanation of the difference between what is a working thesis and what is a research question. So if you remember in class, our topic was teleworking. That's the one we practiced the annotated bibliography sample entry on, so we'll just keep it with that. Now, imagine I've been thinking about student access at the college where I teach, and at UMUC as well. How often do students get face-to-face with counselors, what those different options are, and I wonder if in my workplace environment, if I were to do this project, I could apply teleworking to access for college counselors, because I know faculty can telework, and what I mean by that is that they can have remote office hours. If we're teaching a face-to-face class, we have to be there face-to-face, but if we're teaching hybrid, we're there half the time. I mean, I'm teleworking with students on Thursdays and Fridays, right? So, I mean, I get it as a faculty member, and I'm wondering, do counselors get the opportunity for the same benefit? And so the question, my research question is, so before I go into it, I mean, I guess my angle is that I think I want them to have flexibility. I think flexibility is beneficial for workers, and, it keeps stress and anxiety down. But what I've, through my research, I found that because counselors are significantly guiding students on struggles with financial aid and applying it to their coursework, and what classes they take, or changing majors, or choosing the right professor, or how does this class transfer into a graduate program that they want to get into, or do they choose a double major? There are all these different issues, and often college counseling offices also deal with students who have learning disabilities, who are dealing with other family, financial, and emotional stress at home. I mean, the counselors have such an interesting and varied caseload with which they work with students. And so I thought, well, what if the research informs me that I have to, that teleworking is possible, but it really should be limited. So I've qualified my thesis simply because of the data involved. That wasn't where I was originally hoping to go, but the research informed me that the main claims that I would make would be students' requests to work face-to-face with counselors, that students feel better when they get that face-to-face connection. I hear that a lot with my hybrid classes, that students tend to feel better about the classes they're in if they get weekly face-to-face time with their faculty. So it does make sense that if the research showed, based on student surveys and student interviews, that students requested more face-to-face time with counselors at this particular school, that would be something that would have to be considered. Counselor schedule parity, which just means a balance in all of their schedules, for a more democratic office environment. Maybe some of my research is leading me to believe that considerations of unfairness and favoritism with some people's schedules, not others, creates resentment within the department. We're noticing some of that based on your initial research with some of the situations that you've come up that we've talked about in class. And then student retention support. Maybe there is data from the Office of Institutional Research or data from academic journals that says that students that have had more interactions with their counselors will stay longer or will finish a program. So there's all sorts of reasons why, if I was to make this recommendation would have to be limited, right? That the data is not saying that this is an option for all. The data is saying in certain environments that this would work. Maybe if it's just an online student who is not local, there are options for counselors to have some limited teleworking options, right? But it would be based on the research. So what I wanted to show you here is that a thesis has two components to it. The thesis itself, which is the argumentative statement. They should offer it, but in a limited fashion, based on a couple of main points, and those points are what's called the plan of development. So the body of your research will highlight the first point, requests, students' needs, client needs, and then of course schedule parity, and then retention support. Let's keep them in school. Okay. The more access they have, the longer they stay, which makes perfect sense. So if I was to write this paper, it wouldn't end up the way that I had originally wanted it to, because my instinctively is like, not everybody should be able to have these options. But for that type of client base, it may not work for full-time teleworking, right? Not everybody gets the information they need, and it helps them to just do all of this over the phone. So, so this is a working thesis, and you can see that the working thesis would be based on bits and pieces of evidence that you're now finding in that research that you're building in this critical annotated bibliography / lit review. Your colleagues, your classmates that have already posted have done a wonderful job. Thank you for those of you that are posting early. You've done an absolutely wonderful job of setting the scene, of listing credentials of sources, and of starting to show those relationships between texts, which is what the lit review really does. So as you think about it, think about what is your angle in that working thesis and how that thesis can modify and change based on what the research informs you. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. The other thing that I wanted to remind you of is don't forget that when you submit writing assignment 2, if I can spell this, that I want you to submit it in APA or MLA style. So for example, for the final submission, when you push it into the assignment 2 folder, make sure that either APA or MLA is in 12-point Times New Roman double spaced. AP has a cover page, MLA does not, because remember, in advanced business writing, attention to format detail is really critical. Again, I used to be a proposal writer, and so many of you who work on government contracts know exactly what I'm talking about. That if you do not follow the format to the letter, oftentimes those opportunities when you're submitting a proposal for work, for example, may not be considered. So I'm going to be a bit of a stickler for that. But if you have questions, boy, can I help you. And I know we talked about it in class. I'm more than willing to do conferences on format. If you need a refresher, it's been a while since you've been forced to do MLA or APA style. Finally, I use what's called bubble comments to leave comments on Word documents. And I think I did in writing assignment 1. But as you're doing your annotated bib drafts or your lit review drafts in week 3's discussion, just as a quick reminder, when I leave a comment, I'm just leaving a fake comment here right now. Sometimes, depending on your view, you may not even see that my comment's there other than that there's this highlight. So if you're in Word, toggle up to review and then choose all markup, and then my comments will expand in full. Okay? So if you have any questions whatsoever, let me know. I look forward to talking with you today and tomorrow, and I'm excited to see you guys submit more of your annotated bib / lit reviews.